Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, of course, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis, and of course, always keeping it real when it comes to theme parks. And I am so excited always to talk theme park stuff, but even more excited, I got two amazing parks people here on my channel. I was on their channel a couple of weeks ago. So that would be Orange Grove 55 and Dre, also known as Vash Sky over here. How are you gentlemen doing?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. Thanks for having us on, Lorena.
Oh, no problem. No problem. I had an absolute blast on your channel. So thank you so much for that invite. So I had to bring you here. It's kind of like when you run into other like Disnerds, we kind of like, yeah, we need to keep talking. We need to keep talking. And it just kind of goes like that. So I always love running into fellow Disney and theme park aficionados. So glad that you're here. So to kind of start off with, because I got two of you guys. So yeah, we'll start off with our we call it our icebreaker question, so to speak.
Okay.
And you guys can decide which one wants to answer first. So the first question is, what are your memories of lunchtime at school?
Oh, interesting. Dre, you can start off.
Lunchtime at school. Man. I don't. That's a very interesting question. I remember in middle school, meeting one of the loves of my life there.
Wow.
Who we would have a pretty long relationship with. So I remember that.
Oh.
I remember, in high school, what is it? If when kids got to a certain age, they can actually go off campus, right, to get some lunch and bring it back. I remember that first time doing those kind of things and stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I'm like not a different person. I'm like two different people, right? It's like I'm a different person after high school, and I'm like almost a different person even now. So, as far as that goes, man, it's like it seems like two lifetimes ago, honestly.
Interesting. Now, for me, like in terms of childhood lunches, like if we're talking like childhood era, I was a nerd. I was a Disney nerd back then. Like I managed to find a few friends that were into this stuff like I was. Now, when I was like younger, like 11, 12 years old, Disney was kind of coming up again, right? It was like that early Michael Eisner era, and like the 91, 92 Disney afternoon was real big with the kids, right? So like me and my buddies, we would like at lunch, we would just talk about like the Disney afternoon. We would design like our own attractions for the theme parks and what have you. So
wow.
I was pretty nerdy back then. Honestly hasn't changed that much. I'm kind of all still into the same stuff. It's kind of funny, but that's pretty much, yeah. Like lunchtime, we would dedicate a lot of time to stuff like that, yeah, it's pretty fun. Actually, cool little story is that me and my buddy Ryan, we actually planned for like art class. We actually did like our own little like version of Fantasmic in the classroom using the overhead projector that they use for the.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty cool. And a lot of that was, it was fun. And a lot of that was actually planned during our lunches.
Wow. So, okay. Yeah. I mean, sometimes friends of mine during our lunches, we would plan out because we had this kind of I don't know, hobby or whatever, this passion for movie making, and so we would record like Star Wars fan films in our backyard. Like that's how insane we were.
Oh, wow.
At least in that regard. Not so much. See, there you go. Right? Yeah. This is why I have a conglomeration of different sound effects. Right, because I was looking for those in order to put in after recordings and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely a lot of that. OG, a lot of that for sure. But not really Disney. Surprisingly, it's hard to find even people who have been to Disneyland out here in Arizona sometimes. So you wouldn't think so, but it is. But Star Wars, oh yeah, that was It was my whole jam. We even had a fan club
Wow.
at a certain point. We would go
Wow.
over the extended, the expanded universe and stuff, and go over all those different things. Yeah, so that's what
Cool,
it was all
man.
about.
Wow, that is really interesting. That's really
Mhm.
interesting. I know when I had lunchtime at school, it was it's an interesting time right when you come back to school. And the reason why is everyone who went to Disney World for summer vacation,
Mm.
we had to debrief when we when we came back. Did you write this? Did you see this? Did you see this? You just, man, okay,
That's cool.
maybe we can get our physics professor to explain why test track works the way that it does.
Ooh.
She's like,
Mm.
maybe we can go and ask him about that. Yeah, I actually did get an answer. It's interesting. It's a certain coefficient in physics that makes you go faster than you think you really are,
Ooh.
precisely because of the
Wow.
way that test track is designed. So we used to talk about dirty stuff like that. Just the
Yes.
Diz nerds. You had the people who just went just to say that they went, and the ones were just like, okay, you did this, we did this. Okay, was this cool? Was this still cool? Should I waste my time here? Maybe not here. Is the studios worth going to? That's the kind of stuff that
Right.
some of us would do. So it's always interesting being able to kind of like bond that way. And it's kind of like why I love Disney so much. It seemed to be no matter who you were,
Mhm.
if you had that experience in going, and not just in going to the actual park, but if you were from the Philly metro area,
Yeah.
that epic journey, just like National Lampoon's Family Vacation, the experience going down I-95 and coming back, that was part of the shared
It's
journey
so
too.
funny because we obviously know Disney Family Man, right? He's from not Philly, but what is it?
Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? So it's within the same state, right?
Mhm.
But I always find it very, very interesting how people from Pennsylvania really did visit Walt Disney World on a regular occasion. I was looking through some old what is it, documentation in terms of like the company would give out to certain cast members or even certain investors and so forth. And I was looking through it, and it said back all that way. This was about the 70s or 80s that the number one state for visitation to Walt Disney World was from Pennsylvania. I was like, oh, that's
Exactly.
so interesting. So
Yeah.
when I hear people from Philly or from Pittsburgh or whatever coming on down, it's like that is consistent with that data right there. It's very fascinating, Lorena, for sure.
Well, it's interesting that you should mention that. And I actually
Mm,
found this out. I don't remember which documentary or a book that I read because
mhm.
reportedly Walt was like, yeah, I got this idea for part and have it in Florida. Roy Disney's like, how are you going to pay for it? I mean,
Love it. Love
Disneyland
it.
had, as you guys know, and I've been to Disneyland, I believe like three times,
Mhm.
five if you count conventions where I didn't actually go inside Disneyland.
Oh, I see.
There at the Disneyland hotel, which I don't know, I think I like the Grand Californian a little more,
Yes, I'm with
but
you on that, Lorena. 100%.
Grand
it's
Cal is
like there's
awesome.
the Nostalgia Hotel, which is a Disneyland hotel, and the Grand Californian, which was just, oh God, it's amazing. I must say, I gotta get back there. But supposedly in this documentary, Roy's like, well, how are you gonna pay for it? It's Orlando's in a swamp. This is before word got out about it. It's
Right.
Yeah.
like, well, we're just gonna have to get the people from New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania to come down.
Mhm.
And around that time, I-95 was being constructed, which was the
Right.
superhighway between like connects the Northeast all the way
Yeah.
down the eastern seaboard to Florida that was missing before. Now that was being put into place. They
Right.
were purposely advertising to that particular tri-state area, one, because of the income, two, as soon as they had I-95 there together, and also our local television station is owned by ABC. So it was owned
Okay.
by Disney. So they're pumping out all this advertisement to the point
Mhm.
where it was literally ingrained in the culture. As soon as
Wow.
school is out in the summer, if you could afford it, everybody's going to Disney World. And everything down I-95 is catered towards people leaving the suburban Philadelphia and New York areas
Wow.
and going all the way down to
Right.
Disney. It is purposely set up that way because the local area, or the local population, really isn't going to support that park that way. It's a different model than Disney.
Right.
Yes.
It's so culturally ingrained, and that's kind of like how that works. So yeah, it's strange, but it was
Yeah.
planned that way from the beginning.
And I believe you, because I do believe I seem to remember some passages loosely about the Harrison Buzz Price report when they were looking at different sites for Walt Disney World. This was the same guy who was part of the Stanford Research Institute with C.V. Wood, which is a whole nother story. But these were the guys who plotted out, like, hey, where do you put Disneyland, right? Where's the growing population centers? Where's the easy freeway access and so forth? And I do believe in Harrison Buzz Price's report about Walt Disney World, I think I-95 was definitely a corridor that they had their eyes on. So that's a very interesting dynamic, and how that's all connected there. I hadn't realized that it had connected so far up the East Coast there, but well, there you go. That explains it.
Oh, well, we've already we started on the Disney topic because we got to get there. So one of the questions that I want to ask you is, I think you guys kind of touched on it. We can kind of go in depth a little bit. Kind of like, what set you on your Disney journey? So I know, like, for me, um, my parents were excited to go to the Magic Kingdom. They brought their parents at the time there. Eventually, I went. They brought me, my siblings, and then eventually I brought my nieces and nephews there. But one of the things that I remember is first going to that park, and everything seemed so larger than life to me.
Yeah.
It was like the books that I had that my mom would get. As a matter of fact, cannot freaking believe I still have this toy. If you can see it, plush Megatron is on top of them. But that's a Pluto toy that my mother gave
I
me.
see him.
Mm.
I was like
Oh,
really little. That thing has survived for years. Literally, I just
wow.
got it back like about a year or two ago. But between the books that I'd get and then go to the parks, and it was like everything would just come alive, and it was like nowhere else. And
Right.
I'm like, how'd they do that? How did they get that to work? How do they get this to smell like that? How do they get
Right.
that particular ride, that ride to work like that? And it was just, Disney could do it unlike anything else.
True.
So that's kind of like what started me on my Disney journey. So I kind of want to ask both of you, gentlemen, what started you on your Disney journey?
It's funny. Like, when I was a kid, I'm 43. So when I was growing up in the 80s as a small child, I didn't really have much Disney in my life. In the 80s, at least up until like maybe the mid to late 80s, Disney was kind of irrelevant culturally, you know? And most of the stuff that I was into as a kid was like the non-Disney stuff, like Smurfs, Care Bears, He-Man, Transformers. Those were like my jam. Typical 80s kids kind of stuff, you
Yeah,
know?
I
Yeah.
got
Typical,
you.
right? And that was like my jam for the longest time. And then the Renaissance era hit, right? The Little Mermaid, I fell in love with that movie. Oh, loved it. Roger Rabbit, Beauty and the Beast, which is still like the crown jewel, Aladdin. And that's what the animation of that era is really, what really kind of fueled my fire for Disney. And that's really when I started to get passionate about it. And then from that, it kind of stemmed into like, the parks, and we started to go as a family then once or twice a year to the parks. And I got real into, like, I wanted to be an animator for Disney, and I was drawing a lot. So
Uh-huh.
that's kind of what started like my whole thing, it's that animation. And then the parks came after. and I've honestly been a fan ever since. And I've always been into like the creative side of the company, but I've even like as a young kid, like in my teens, like I was into even the business end of it. Like I would follow the stock and I would get all into like the news and like what's going on. And I remember being like super stressed out as a kid when Jeffrey Katzenberg left. I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen? You know? And I just always loved it. I've always loved ever since that Renaissance era. It just got me going, and it's been the same ever since.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Renaissance era was particularly profound for my generation growing up, born in 1990. So I still remember seeing like Lion King and the Seine Capri, you know, here in the Phoenix metro area, which was the largest screen at that point. The Lion King. Back in 1994, so I was about 4 years old, right? I still remember the gold curtains and everything like that. And that was definitely my introduction to Disney, I think, in general. But on a fairly regular basis, even before that, we would go to Disneyland. I just don't have super early memories at that point. I'm told that I reacted well to what I saw back then, but I'm not sure. But you know, so we would go on a semi-regular basis, right? About once a year, right? And that continued for some time. But at that time, you know, as amazing as Disneyland actually was, I don't know, like, franchises, IP, they definitely have an effect on you, I think. And so I remember liking Universal a little bit more when I was a kid than Disney. I know. It is shocking and it's surprising because you look back there and you just wouldn't think about that, but it happened to be the case. I was a huge Back to the Future fan. They had the Back to the Future ride, you know, and I was like, oh,
That's
that
cool.
was awesome. But
a great franchise.
Then Disneyland, they have Indiana Jones, and that was an awesome thing too. One of my favorite characters, absolutely, of all time. But Nez wasn't really big into Disney or theme parks up until 2005. And what happened in 2005? That was the 50th anniversary of Disneyland, and it was so nostalgic. It was so like, you know, it referenced its history so well during that particular celebration that it kind of, I don't know, like I remember being in the, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, pre-show there, and they had outfitted out completely for the 50th anniversary celebration. They had this big old model that they still have there. It's just kind of like tilted upward, which is very interesting. But at that point, the Imagineers constructed this model of Disneyland that was a reconstruction of what it looked like when it originally opened in 1955. And so it was like, wow, this place has changed dramatically. I want to know the history of this place. And so this cast member who was going through all this history there was like, hey, if you want to know more, you want to go and get a certain DVD at the Magic Shop there. It's in the silver tin, as part of the Disney Treasure series, and it was I think it was Disneyland. I think it was Myths, Magic, and something else. But it was part of that Treasure series there, and I took that home, and that was the start of my like crazy I'm super into this Disney fandom there. But still, it was very parks limited. Up until I think I went to the D23 Expo in 2011, I think, and I started to expand my view out to incorporate the entire company, because even back then, as I was doing my history into Disneyland and so forth, I was astounded by how many times that the theme park experience was affected by what was going on in Burbank, right? With C-Suite, with Michael Eisner and so forth. So Paul Pressler, of course. And so it was like, okay, like I have to really kind of expand out here and get immersed into not only the direct connection between Burbank and the parks, but also what the entire company is doing. And so that's kind of broadened out from there. Of course, got into that, and then OG made the call and said, "Hey, you want to come on the show?" And it's like, okay, let's give that a try. And moved from guest to co-hosting duties at times, and now we're here.
You know, it's amazing, you guys. Like the if sometimes it kind of blows my mind, and I have to like step back and really think about it. But it's amazing that a man that was born in 1901 is continuing to change the world. Like we're all together today. You know, we're all
Mm-hmm.
friends, and we're all talking today because of what that man did. I mean, he's been dead for like 50 plus years. He was born over 100 and something years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all here together, and we're friends, and we're enjoying this conversation largely because of the stuff that he did. For me, that just blows my mind in so many ways.
Yeah.
I got you. It's just it's amazing.
Right.
It's and it's even, I would say it's even cooler to see. Like case in point, I don't know. I guess I got tricked into this, but I brought like two of my nephews and two of my nieces to Disney World on a trip. I must have been nuts. Well, no, it was free dining. That's why we did it. And I take them, you know, to the park because they know that I'm a Disney. They know I'm a Disney nut, but they had not had the theme park experience.
Wow.
So when they got there, like my oldest nephew, he is a huge fan of the video game Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, okay.
You guys know
Gotcha.
about that? But
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember this. I think you told us on when you were on our show, Kingdom Hearts,
Mhm.
big deal.
Very, very big deal. So for him to go to the parks and like, so Auntie, this is what you're telling me about. I'm like, yeah. For the first time, he actually kind of felt, I don't want to say normal, but that he wasn't alone in his love for Disney. And he would meet like other kids and he didn't even know, but they're at Disney and they just love talking about their favorite characters, even
Mhm.
with the video games, because that was like big, you know, with Disney Interactive
Right.
going on, which is another thing that blew my mind. I'm like, this is great. This is awesome. But just getting to connect with other people, and you're right. It's like this man that was born so long ago, is responsible for like us meeting each other, us becoming friends, and so much just like a part of it's just a great community that
It is.
way. It's just it's wonderful. It's got its challenges, and we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about that in a moment.
Yeah,
Little
yeah.
little
Little.
little bit, but the fact that I like my niece knows that one of my, well, two of my favorite princesses, well, Tinkerbell's number one because she's a pixie, can't be her. Um, one of the books that I had was oh my gosh, Sleeping Beauty, because my
Oh.
grandmother had actually bought me that book. So I
Oh
loved
yeah.
that book. So they know I loved Sleeping Beauty. And another one is Aladdin, animated. That one's my favorite. My mom liked Beauty and the Beast. I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah, you like it. Yeah. Aladdin. Okay, this is my speed. Jasmine is my type of princess. We can we can totally rock, totally rock with that. Totally rock with that.
Yeah.
Um
Not a not a
it's
not a sight for sore eyes either.
No, no, not at all. She's my favorite. I met her
She's
in the
awesome.
parks and geeked out.
Oh,
100%.
Absolutely,
that's awesome.
completely geeked out. It was, gosh, it was so much fun. But so a lot of great memories, and it just never ceases to amaze me, just how much his influence has passed on, even, and we talked about it on the show, even when
Right.
it comes to anime in Japan. A
Right.
lot of them have studied, the early animation that Disney was known for, and you'll see it's crazy how many of these callbacks that you'll see. But
Yeah.
it's amazing to see how much of an influence he's had. You know,
Yeah.
He changed the world in so many ways. In so many ways.
absolutely.
I mean, entertainment, film, television, even television. And he was a game
Yeah.
changer with the old Mickey Mouse Club and the
Mhm.
World of Color and all that. And then with theme parks and just in so many ways, in so many different facets of our lives, our daily lives today were
Mhm.
changed and molded by what he did. And he's been dead for like 50 something years. It's just it really does blow my mind.
It is
It
wild.
really, it really does. And it's like, and it doesn't even stop with like the hand-drawn animation. I think
Yeah.
about, like the rise of Pixar when Toy Story came out.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the computer animation was amazing, but for most people, it was like I'm immersed in the story where the toys actually act like toys. But we know that's not really real, but it just seems it's just amazing. The effect just keeps going on, keeps going on. But speaking of effect and speaking of community, I need to know, how did you guys even start a YouTube channel? What kicked that off?
Oh well,
So
I'm gonna have to kick it off to OG here for sure.
well, it's funny because I've always been into it, like, since a child, and I've always talked about it, whether it be with friends or like my dad or my sister or and so I've always been into it. And then like a few years ago, I was really into like, I don't know if you remember like Collider, right? And I was watching a lot of like Jedi Council.
Mhm.
And I still, Sith Council. Now that's Christian
Ah,
Harloff's
okay.
his new channel, his new show. But long story short, I was really into his show and everything. And I'm like, this is
Mhm.
fun. This is a great Star Wars kind of show. But we don't really have anything like that for like theme parks, though, right? Like you see a lot of like when you go onto YouTube, you see a lot of like a lot of vlogging and stuff like that from in the parks, but there's not too many channels that are just like, fireside chats talking about the corporate end and like,
Mhm.
decisions being made and things like that. So I'm like, okay, why don't we take that, right? And why don't we like, kind of like, I was inspired by like what Christian Harloff was doing with Jedi Council and and
Mhm.
and, and do a channel and do mostly theme parks, but not really necessarily vlogging based, but more based on like just conversations, just nerds getting
Mhm.
together, Diz nerds getting together and just talking shop. And that was really my inspiration. I just wanted to have a place where we can just all gather and talk about this stuff,
Mhm.
and that was it. So in 2016, I pulled the trigger and I started a channel, and it was like, like always those first few videos are really cringe, right? It's like, it was filmed with like no
Yeah, I
mic,
get you.
right? Oh man, right?
I
The first
know.
few are always
Yeah.
so cringe, and like
Yeah.
it was really bad, and then now I look back, I'm like, oh, I can't watch it. But I just kind of kept up with it, and I would just make weekly videos, and then
Mhm.
I met a lot of great friends along the way, like this guy right here, Dre, and just started having more people on the channel,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, the rest is kind of history. It's just basically the simple idea behind it is just a very conversational thing about Disney, about theme parks, and that's kind of was just my overall kind of core inspiration for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had, told me at the time because we were chatting on Twitter. At that time, the community was, I don't know, there were definitely pockets of it that were a little bit closer. Let's say back then, right? And
Yeah.
OG was
Mhm.
definitely part of that circle for sure. And so I remember him reaching out to me very early on, saying, "Hey, I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel." I was like, "Ooh, that sounds awesome!" Talking about some of the things that were going on. One of the big
Mhm.
things was the conversion of Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, which we had over here at DCA, to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, which was
Yeah.
that was a big deal, and there was a lot of hubbub about that.
Mhm.
But OG and I kind of had the same take on it, which was like, "Hey, you know what? This could actually be good." Twilight Zone Tower of Terror that we had enjoyed at DCA for quite some time. I think what 2000
Um,
like
it opened in 2017. Now it's
7.
2016.
Yeah, we had enjoyed it for quite some time up until that
Mhm.
point. Yeah, like almost like 10 years or something. But it was
Oh,
like
you
it
mean
was
the original? You mean the
the
original
original Tower
tower?
of Terror,
Oh, I'm
wasn't it?
sorry, I thought you meant Mission Breakout. No, the original tower opened in 2004.
2004, yeah. I would say 2004 or something like that,
Okay.
right? And but ever since that point, it was always looked at as kind of like, it doesn't compare to Disney's Hollywood Studios version,
Yeah.
right? And I would agree. So to give that thing a lease on life, I thought was a good thing, but a lot of people
Mhm.
didn't feel that way, right?
No.
And so OG comes out and says the contrarian thing, and I was like, there you go. that will get some eyeballs, and I like what I'm seeing there. But largely solo with some guests on occasion,
Yeah.
but largely a solo thing, and I would tune in all the
Mm-hmm.
time. But then, well, a lot of things changed in 2020, right?
Yep.
And we saw some things that a lot of us thought we would never see, and it was around that time that OG reached out and said, "Hey, the parks aren't open. There's definitely a lack of news and updates regarding this whole situation. Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to come on and really talk about it and feature some commentary on what's going on around us, maybe some future stuff, how this impacts the company and so forth." So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know what, I'll do that. And I don't know, it was like, okay, well, something new happened. It was like, well, you know what, let's talk about that. Hey, Newsom extended this, did this. I don't like that. Let's talk about that, right? It was,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and it just started kind of building on itself. And then I think it was Disney Family Man George who was like, "Oh, that Vash Sky kid. We definitely gotta. I definitely have to be on with him
Mm-hmm.
in order to talk to him and all three of us, and but that was the start of that relationship
Yeah.
as well, and we've just kind of been building from there. But it was kind of organic, and it kind of bore out of this kind of desire for content
Mm-hmm.
and community at a time when
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't have either. And
Right.
and a lot of YouTube channels, commentary channels like ours, kind of start off that way, right? Or kind of flipped into that thing. I
Mm-hmm.
know Fresh Baked, for example, who is a big YouTuber, at least on the West Coast side. He was a
Mm-hmm.
vlogger, and then he kind of switched to, hey, let's do a little bit more commentary.
Mm-hmm.
But man, around that time, there was really nobody doing that. There were some podcasts out there, but nobody really doing the fireside chats like we enjoy
Mm-hmm.
here. So I was fully on board, and I just give it up to this man right here. D- you know, um, I'm honored and privileged to be a part of it.
Well, and the channel, honestly, like I am forever in this guy's debt, as well as Disney Family Man 23. These guys are amazing. I mean, the channel would not be the same without these two gentlemen, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really evolved into something really, really special. We have an amazing friendship, and it's just a lot of fun. I really look forward to our videos where we get together and just talk shop, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's really organic because this is stuff that we've been doing our whole lives. Like I've been
Yes.
talking Disney forever, even long before the YouTube channel, So when
Mm-hmm.
when I decided to make the channel, it's like it's just an extension of what I've already been doing,
Yeah,
it's
and
it's great.
I think that's what put OGM on my radar, because I had been talking about it on Twitter. But
Right.
250 characters, that gets kind of tough if you want to
Yeah.
go
Hard.
into something really in
Mm-hmm.
depth. I remember putting together a 60 tweet thread about what was going on when it came to the lockdown situation and so forth. And OG was just like, dude, there's an easier way to do this. You should really do it in
Mm-hmm.
video format. You know what? Yeah, maybe you're right. But yeah, we were talking about Disney parks and everything related to them for years, up until even the channel was born. So yeah, very organic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the rapport that you guys have, because one of the ways that I found out actually about your podcast, I actually have to thank Drunk 3PO actually for that,
Oh,
for saying that he had actually been on you guys' channel. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, okay. So like I took a sneak peek and I looked and I'm like, you know what? This looks a lot like the theme park geeks and divas show that I have, that I
Nice.
started about like last year, where it was okay, culture, you're in the theme parks. Chris Gore, who used to be on G4, I don't know if you guys remember
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He drops in because he's a big theme parks guy, so he'll just be,
Wow.
on the show. We've had Rogue Disney, drop in. Theme park
Oh,
casual lately, we've been having him drop in, and it's the kind of show where just people just dropped in and people just showed up, and just kind of like what we're doing here, what you guys do in your channel.
hey.
We're just sitting there, just shooting the breeze, chatting about this theme park, that theme park. You remember this? Yeah, you remember that? Yeah, I remember this. And it's such organic conversation that happened. And I mean, I do the vlogging thing, but I also like that format as well because people will drop in and they'll ask questions or they'll drop in and
Cool.
kind of talk to their friends. We had this thing monthly. It's probably going to wind up being twice a month because a sub show we call Theme Park Therapy we started doing. And it because we had a show for one topic. We
Mhm.
didn't get to that topic. It was just I forget exactly what was going on right then with the parts. So people were just venting about things that they were frustrated about, but not just
Right.
venting to be frustrated,
Right.
venting because the experience that they had come to expect
Had
from
changed.
Disney had changed. So they kind of wanted to check, like, am I the only person seeing this? And people were like, no, I've seen it too. I've seen it too. Do you remember when it was like X, Y, and Z? Oh yeah, I remember that. And it's just a fun synergy and meeting and talking to people. And of course, you gentlemen you have an open invitation to drop in
Oh.
because literally it's
Oh.
starting to be like a bar in a way where people are
That's
just dropping
fantastic.
in. Are you streaming? Okay, here's the show. We're gonna all get in the show and just talk. And it's just great because
Awesome.
you talk to other people
Yeah.
and you get, I want to say, a more even perspective in a way because you're getting a broad spectrum of opinions from people who vlog in the parks to people who live near the parks to
Right.
people who visit the parks once a year, even people who visit parks where they live. Like some of us know where some of these parks are. We call them our training grounds before we went to Disney World. So we got Six Flags Great Adventure, we've
Right.
got
Hershey Park.
Hershey Park, Dorney Park,
Dollywood. Yeah. Yeah.
Nobles, Dollywood. So we talk about that, and it's all that great theme park experiences from a cross section of people, which makes the segue into this one segment of the Disney fandom where I had heard about it. Hadn't really gotten that deep into it because when I was on Twitter, it was mostly just to converse with my friends. I think
Sure.
the last time I did any Disney deep dive, I was on the Diz boards. I was there for a little while and then just kind of decided to tap out because there were some
You're
things
like, I'm
going
done.
on. I said, I'm done. You can't handle what's about to fly out of my mouth with with some of with some of this stuff. Um, but one of the things that I notice is this. I don't want to say it's a super fan because I don't think that that's the right nomenclature, but the kind of person who is so addicted to Disney that Disney can do no wrong.
Mm.
And then when people bring up very valid criticisms, it's like they're basically ripped apart. Like I have a saying on this channel and on Twitter: "Pixie dust is a hell of a drug."
Yes.
It's like it's very powerful. If you've seen it and you've seen Peter Pan, you know exactly
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. But it's like I
Right.
say that with respect because it kind of is. You take too much of that,
Yeah.
and you can't really see objectively. So the
Mm-hmm.
rise of Diz Twitter, which I've noticed, it's been a very interesting place. I'll put it that
Yeah.
way. So I will ask you gentlemen first because I want your impressions. What is your impression of Diz Twitter?
Well, here's my thing. It's kind of almost like a love-hate thing for me. Like, I love it in the sense that it kind of does play into that thing that I always love, like talking with my friends about the parks, like I've always done. I love that
Mhm.
element of it, But like you said, the pixie dusting is a huge factor. And even the opposite end, I think, is also a factor where you have people who maybe like are addicted, who go too much, and then it becomes sort of like, I think you can sort of lose the magic a little bit when you go too much and you
Mm.
get a little jaded too. So I think there's two of those kind of things happening.
Yeah.
And then you put that all on one app, right? Twitter. and then, everyone's passionate about it. So people get hot, and they argue, and it can get, that element of it for me is not good. I don't like that element of it. There is a lot of drama there. So it's kind of a love-hate thing because, right? There's a lot of, so I like the element of we all have this common thing that we love. We all have at the end of the day, this thing that's this, we're passionate about it.
Right.
But sometimes, and this goes really for any fandom really, but sometimes that passion also fuels a lot of ugliness, unfortunately.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But, the great thing about Twitter is you can kind of tailor your experience because you follow certain people. Okay, I like this person, follow them, block that person. So you can kind of tailor it a little bit. But yeah, it's really kind of, you got to navigate the waters a little bit. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it. What do you think,
Yeah.
Jay?
Well, this Twitter. Oh boy. So I started out.
Oh boy.
In terms of the conversations and so forth that I would have with others, again, very limited over here in Arizona. So I would go on the Mice Chat forums, right? And that's kind of where
I remember Mice Chat.
Yeah, that's kind of where I started there. Very Disneyland centric, of course. So that I think that was a perfect fit. Obviously, there were others, but a lot of them seemed to skew Walt Disney World. And I was like, Walt Disney World is fantastic, but home park Disneyland, come on, let's rock it.
Gotcha.
That community was well, I mean, obviously it was moderated, right? And the things there seem to be a little bit more constructive, let's say. So when Twitter was really kind of getting hot and everything like that, I was like, ooh. Here's this app in which I can follow people and they can tweet out stuff and post stuff and do stuff. Give me 1 second.
Oh no, go right ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. So you would follow people as hey. Some people could post photos while they were in the park and then upload it instantaneously. I didn't have to wait for a trip report or something like that. It was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. I can follow what's actively going on in these parks. So that's kind of how I got into Diz Twitter, not really for the conversational aspect, but really for just keeping up with what was going on in these places that we love so much. But then obviously, the Diz Twitter community started to form, right? And take shape. And at first it was pretty constructive, or at least I thought, right? And we would talk about some things that were bigger, broader, and so forth. And we would include commentary about the CEO and how the parks are being affected by that. But then as it grew, obviously, and Twitter is definitely let's say geared towards the hot takes, the kind of the
soundbitey kind of stuff, right?
Soundbitey stuff,
grenades,
right? The game,
250 characters.
Yeah,
right.
And people would gang tackle on top of others because hey, if somebody that's really big retweets somebody else, well, now all those followers can reply to there, and so some of the more destructive aspects, let's say, started to kind of come in, and there's definitely an underbelly there that existed for some time, like a toxic underbelly, let's say. OG and I have talked about that in private on a couple of occasions, right? And it's a little bit it's not good. I'll just put it that way. But I don't know. It unfortunately the communication, right? The discussion is not as constructive as it possibly could be, and that's really unfortunate. And it's part of that's Diz Twitter, but part of it, like you said, Lorena, it's that pixie dust, right? It's that people are very emotionally connected with these places, with these things, and they have. Let's say they have some passions, right? And sometimes that could lead to emotional reactions that can take all sorts of forms. For example, like what you were talking about, Lorena, where they just will defend the company at every single turn. And it's like, okay, well, you can defend them, right? But you also got to be fair too. If they screw up, I mean, I don't think you love the parks less for calling something out that you feel is unjustified or that you don't like or whatever. Obviously, we want the experience to be as let's say as robust as Christine Waistlines
Mhm.
McCarthy would say. That's her name. That's her name now. You know what I'm talking about, Lorena. You know that
Yes, I
comment, right?
do. Yes, I
And
do.
I
I'm
I
like,
I have
"You see how the mic is on?"
yes, yes. And I tell people, I say, that's how they're talking about you in public.
Right.
Imagine
Remember,
what you're saying in
exactly,
private
right?
about you people.
100%. And so I have dubbed her that because I will not let her forget it. But but no, I mean, you have some, you know, you have some reactions, to put it simply, that are
Yeah.
very visceral, and we don't call it pixie dust, we call it living in Fantasyland. Stop living in Fantasyland. Get out and expand your worldview a little bit, or even, hey, put yourself out there and really kind of maybe look at a contrarian take that maybe you don't like, or maybe that's a
Right.
little bit out there, and examine it
Mhm.
on its own merits and not just an emotional visceral reaction. But that can be hard to relay on Twitter for sure.
That
Yeah.
can definitely be hard to relate on Twitter. I know some people have seen my takes and they're kind of like, "Well, how c" I'm kind of like with Geeky Sparkles from Clownfish TV. It's like we love Disney, but when they do things that it's just like, you're better than this."
Yeah.
It's just like we're gonna call you out on it. Like I had to explain to a couple people on Twitter. It's like I have my tagline, keeping it real when it comes to theme parks. Well, I kind of had to because when I was a kid, it wasn't a cheap thing to be able to go to Disney. Thankfully, my grandparents, both sets of grandparents, lived in Florida. So if we were already going down there to visit them, the question was, did we have any money left over to go ahead and drive down to Orlando to go visit Disney World? So for us, it was always about how much money did you have to spend? Was it worth it? When I was a kid, when we went, what's an ADR? No, we ate before we got to the park. Then back when they did sell the turkey legs that could feed like a family of four, we get that like a cool snack, maybe have money left over to get like a souvenir or something, but we had to be very judicious about what we spent. But at
Right.
that time, what you spent, you got value, if not more, for your dollar at the time. So every time I'm in the parks, I'm purposely looking, is it a value or is it not a value? You have some people who are just like, these dessert parties are great. I'm like, no, the dessert party at Disneyland was great when I went for Halloween time, and I got to see, was it no, I got to see Fantasmic. Now, I just saw World of Color, but that was a different thing. But I saw it with Fantasmic. I said that was actually worth it. That was a really, really nice
Mm.
setup, and I enjoyed it.
Beautiful.
But when you tell me that parts of parts of the Magic Kingdom that used to be, if you got there early enough and claimed it, it was your spot. So to be able to see the fireworks from Tomorrowland Terrace or in a certain part of the Carnation Rose Garden that was there, you got there early enough, that was your spot. You had
Yeah.
family, get food, stuff, bring back. You had a great view of the fireworks and it was perfect. You could enjoy it with everyone. Now, guess what? Dessert party at Tomorrowland Terrace, $100 a pop. The spread that they give you is not worth $100. I'm like, I could cater that from Publix and charge you $30 a head, and you
Right.
would get better things. It's just like it's the value isn't there. So if someone brings that up to you and makes that logical case, and you just accuse them of being, negative, why do you have to talk that way? And no, it isn't. It's the best thing. It's like, it's fun if you think it's the best thing, but it's also fine if someone doesn't think it's the best thing.
Absolutely.
And to kind of go on the flip side, and I'd like to hear you guys' opinions about this.
Mm.
You have some people who act as if Disney can never do anything right. Now,
Right.
I said there are some things that they do right. Come on,
Mhm.
give them credit for it. But for them, it's just like, no, 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 no. I don't see why you spend your money there. I'm like, well, my money is my money. Your money's your money. You can do, whatever you
Right.
want, whatever you want with it. So, like you were saying, Dre, and kind of like what you were alluding to, OG, because
Mhm.
of that brevity of characters and Twitter is not a medium that's made for continuous involved discussion. Twitter seems
Mhm.
to be more for getting the news out there, hot takes, the verbal grenades that you throw out in
Right.
250 characters, and you kind of throw it out and get, and keep moving on. So it's kind of disappointing. It's like you were saying,
Yeah.
OG. It's like I love this Twitter and
Yeah.
I loathe this Twitter at the,
Right.
at the
Right.
same.
Right. And that's why I kind of make it a point, like if there's someone like on the platform, like in the community, like did Twitter, right? And
Mhm,
I actually did this kind of recently, just like about a month ago, where
Mhm.
there was this gentleman. His name is Tim. Fantastic. We're friends, but we literally never agree on anything, pretty much, at least on Twitter, right?
mhm,
And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna DM Tim. I'm gonna ask him to come on the show because well, first of all, I welcome all opinions. I like that a lot. And I think also when you have someone, because like you said, with Twitter, it's very hot takey. Like the way Twitter is structured, it's like tailored for that hot take kind of thing.
mhm,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to bring Tim on and let's have a conversation. So it was myself, Dre, and Tim. And it's funny, like once you get off Twitter and you get into like a situation like this, like there's less disagreement because it's like there's context now, right? Like you're hearing someone's case be made. Okay, I can
mhm,
see where you're coming from on that, and it's just so much better, right? Like it just you start to see things differently
mhm,
when you get out of that real like limited character sort of perimeter,
mhm.
and it's just interesting. It's very, very interesting. I always wonder too, like how many, like if Diz Twitter, if we can get all of Diz Twitter on a StreamYard, we probably would all not all agree, but I think it would be better because I think when you have a situation like that where you have that context, you're able to hear someone out, and it's more than just 2 or 3 sentences, and I think that makes a big difference. I really, really do.
So this is what excites me about the prospect of a Twitter 2.0 under new management, right?
Elon.
From what we understand, there's going to be some substantial changes going on at Twitter, and maybe one of the things that is changed is okay. Obviously, there's a 250 character limit, right? But
Right.
what if when you respond to a tweet, it could be a little bit longer than that? And actually allow for a little bit more robust discussion between
Yeah.
two parties and so forth. It is a possibility. It is something that you could look into. Hey, Twitter is now going to have kind of Twitter video, this kind of
Yeah.
platform that,
I'm excited about that.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, a
Yes.
lot of people are, and us included for sure. But I mean, what if you could respond to somebody in video format and do a
Mhm,
little bit more dynamically in that way? The ability to post a video that where you can kind of explain something, right? That's a little bit more than 250 characters or a 60 tweet thread. That would also provide for a little bit more,
mhm,
back and forth there and a healthier debate. But I think these algorithms and so forth, they kind of put you
Right.
into this kind of modality where they will line you up with people who will kind of inculcate this kind of groupthink or this kind of like opinions that you kind of agree with, and kind of disassociate you through algorithmic ways
mhm.
away from things that you maybe disagree with. And so when these kind of groups collide, it can ruffle some feathers, let's say, right? If we're talking about Twitter. So it's like, maybe we can pull that back a little bit. Maybe that's one of Elon's focuses. I'm not sure, but I think
Mhm.
even that would help tremendously in terms of people that like they feel that Disney can't do anything right. I definitely know some people like that for sure. A lot of them are on my feed every day, where it's like they're criticizing the company on one thing or another, and I don't know. I mean, I guess if you look at my profile, I guess it's a little bit like that as well. I try to be as nuanced as possible. However, at least when given the opportunity on OG's show, look, there's definitely some things you can criticize the company for, and I'm not going to apologize for the company. Let's say I will defend them if, in fact, people might not be looking at a situation
Mhm.
with both eyes open. Let's say I will go ahead and express maybe some viewpoints that will. That will defend the company in some way, but I will never like apologize for them. And it's one of those things, like, give credit where it's due,
Right.
obviously. And hey, if you have constructive criticism or something like that, hey, offer it. And I know Chapek himself has said, hey, we're going to be customer focused. We're going to be consumer driven. We're gonna want that survey, right? We're going to want that
Mhm.
response. But obviously they do it in their own way. I
Right.
kind of bring that to the show, where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, like, let's be fair. Let's look at both sides here. Let's look at it from
Right.
a management perspective, a business perspective, but also from a guest perspective. And obviously there's going to be some conflict there, no doubt, no question. But this one-sided take where it's all or nothing, yeah, that's not too good.
Well,
Yeah.
and even on your case, Dre, like you were saying, like if you looked on your Twitter profile,
Sure.
people would at face value think that they just don't like anything they do, right?
Yeah.
But then you get on the channel and with the ability to sort of give more context to your opinions, right?
Right.
It's not the case. You love this
Yeah.
company. You do give credit where credit is due and stuff. And that's kind of like that whole Twitter thing again, where it's such a limiting thing, you know?
Yeah.
It really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dre. Let me
Oh
finish
no,
your.
I was just gonna say, the Disney just bought this cruise liner, the Global Dream or whatever.
Yeah,
I think you heard about that, right? Okay.
yeah, I did.
I was like, hey, this is a great move, and everyone's like, ah, that's a crappy move. This is horrible. What are you talking about? All that kind of stuff. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute here, and I got some pushback in a way that I didn't necessarily think, because it was like, this is a fantastic move. What are you guys going on about? Sometimes people just don't know. They are missing some context or some background information that could maybe better inform them, and maybe they would react differently and stuff like that. So I try to bring that to the
Mhm.
show, because I can't necessarily do that very effectively on Twitter.
It's
And
hard.
so it's like that back and forth thing. Sorry, look, Lorena, go ahead.
Oh, no, no, no worries, no worries, no worries, no worries. It's extremely difficult to nuance it. Like when I tell people, I say, yes, full disclosure, I am a Disney stockholder.
Mm.
Oh, well, you're just happy with everything that you do. I said, no, that is not the case. It's not the case.
Right.
I bought Disney stock, I think right after they bought Marvel.
Wow. You've
Um,
owned it for a
Oh,
long
okay.
time.
I've owned it for a long time. I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
okay. Well," I was like, "I got some spare money. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I pretty much like what's going on with the parks at
Yeah.
the time." So I'm like, "Okay, fine. Make these people work for me. I'm gonna buy me a couple of shares of stock." I think I paid like 35 bucks for it when I bought it at the
Ooh.
time. Yeah,
Wow. That's a
yeah, I'm
steal.
big time. They're like, "Aren't you worried?" I'm like, "I bought it at 35
It's
bucks."
going
And
up, yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, it's lost, a good amount of value, but still it's worth way more, than I paid for it." And it went up, of course, after, Disney bought Star Wars, but some people
Hmm.
are just like, "Oh, you're just happy with everything Disney does, and Disney's not good at this and not good at that." And I'm like, there's two sides to this. The Disney that you're talking about is Disney corporate. You have to understand that there's Disney corporate, and then there's the cast members that you see every day. The cast
Yeah.
members where I wish I could just throw money at them.
Yeah.
because they are, such a part of the experience. But yeah, unfortunately, you do have some people who think that everything that Disney does is wrong. I've kind of run into that with some folks who are Star Wars fans. It's like, I
Oh yeah.
understand your
Hmm.
disappointment, but it's the company. The company doesn't deserve to get burned to the ground
No.
because they messed up an IP, which they did. They're just not real good with handling this the IP thing, which brings me to my next subject to talk to you guys about. What about the Bobs?
Oh boy,
Interesting.
I
OG.
have I have to bring them up because honestly, I really had not paid attention to what was going on with the Bobs until I want to say maybe 20 2018, maybe. And
Mm.
the reason why I say 2018, because 2018 had to be one of the worst trips to Walt Disney World that I had ever taken.
Wow.
And I stayed at the Grand Floridian at a discount actually, and got upgraded. So that was a cool thing Disney did. They upgraded me, so I had a gorgeous view of the monorail and the fireworks too at night. Um, the parks were not as clean as I remembered. Uh, rides rides breaking down, which I'd never seen before.
Wow.
The parks were just seas of humanity. I could barely get into the Grand Floridian. Granted, it was around Christmas. I knew it was going to be nuts
Wow.
to just enjoy my own resort. I'm like, okay, I'm going back. I'm going back to my lodge room. Right now with how much everything costs. Restaurants where the experience used to be top notch, not so much anymore. So I said, as a stockholder, who is running the company right now?
Mm.
And at that point in time, it was Bob Iger. So I
Right.
started paying more attention to what was going on, the decisions that he was making. And of course, with that, I heard about Bob Chapek. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, where did he get that name
Ah.
from? And people were telling me why and stuff that was going on in the parks. And I would hear cast members talking about, their hours getting cut. The wages weren't as high as they would like for it to be. Things getting cut for cast members, also certain experiences, which I could tell the experience had been greatly diminished from what it was before. So of course, y'all know Chapek got promoted to CEO. So I would like to know from you guys, what do
Mhm.
you think about the Bobs? And is Bob the second? I'll call him that. I'll call Bob Chapek Bob. This is Bob the second. Does he really deserve to be demonized as much as he seems to be?
Um.
Oh, OG, you mind taking over here for just real fast? I gotta check on something real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
I
No,
will
I
be
got it. I
right
got it.
back. Okay.
Um. Yeah. So this is interesting, Lorena. This is actually very interesting because, like, when Bob Iger was running the show, up until maybe like the last maybe couple years he was there,
Mhm.
I was all in on Bob Iger. I was like, oh my god, this guy he bought Marvel, he bought Pixar, he got Oswald back from Universal, even that little Oswald.
Mm,
I mean, this guy he was doing a lot of great things. The stock, like you mentioned, you're a stock holder. That the stock was great. I mean, things were really chugging along.
mhm.
I was really in the Bob Iger camp, right? I was like, all in. This guy is fantastic. I started to change my mind about 2 years before he left, when he started going after
Mm,
Fox, right? And I'm like, "This is
mm,
weird. This guy's going after Fox," and it was like Fox felt like a weird buy in the first place for kind of for
mhm,
Disney. It didn't feel as natural as the other thing. Like Star Wars felt like a natural fit. It was already in the parks. Even Marvel, like superheroes, princesses, all that. I can see that all being in that Disney mix.
mhm.
Felt very organic. Pixar felt very organic. It was already very much part of the Disney
Yeah.
family, right? And then here comes Fox. I'm like, this seems kind of weird. Then he goes and he gets into like a bidding war with Comcast, right? And he
Mhm.
overspends on it, in my opinion. $70 billion was an absolute ridiculous price tag for Fox. ridiculous. And here's the thing, Bob Iger was known as the acquisition king because of all these successful acquisitions. Well, we didn't know it at the time, but now in hindsight, it kind of all clicked in. He knew he was leaving very soon when that whole Foxing was going down. Well, he couldn't lose Fox to Comcast and then retire. That would totally tarnish his reputation as his acquisition master, right? So he had to get Fox. He had to get it. So he was going to pay for that. If it's 70 billion, 80 billion, 150 billion, he was going to do it because it was his legacy he was protecting. He didn't really care about Disney. He just needed to make sure he left the company on top as that acquisition king. So in my opinion, my idea of Bob Iger and everything really became extremely tarnished when that occurred, because up until that point, I really thought this man had the best interest of the Walt Disney Company. He really did care about Walt and the legacy. Maybe you don't agree with every decision, but I felt he was coming from a good place. When that happened, I knew Bob Iger was about Bob Iger. Then right when that hit, he overspent on Fox. Then the pandemic hits, right? And this is like in February 2020 when like things are starting to shut down in China. There's all kinds of murmurs that things are going to start shutting down here. So what does he do? He decides, oh, okay, I'm going to retire now. There you go, Bobby C. You handle it. I'll be over here if you need me. If you need advice, I'll be over here. I will never forgive Bob Iger for that, because whether it was Chapek or somebody else, this is a company that we all care about so deeply. And for him to just basically hand it over like that at the worst possible time to a guy who, like, first day on the job as CEO, it showed a total lack of regard for the company, and it was all about maintaining his image and his legacy. And that with the Fox thing, I was like, you know what? My whole idea of Bob Iger is not good. Now, in terms of like your second question, Lorena, like, does he deserve being demonized? Absolutely not. Chapek has all kinds of issues. The guy is like super awkward, really corny. He's got like no people skills at all. He is a money guy, he absolutely is, but I don't think he deserves what he gets. I think he was handed a really bad hand with that whole thing, that whole trade-off in 2020. He was really fighting uphill battle the first like 2 or 3 years of his term as CEO. I think he's made some good decisions. I think he's made some not so good decisions, but he definitely doesn't deserve to be demonized the way that he is. And I actually coined a term I use quite often on my channel called bald man bad. Because that's what it is. It's bald man bad. Everyone just blames Chapek, no matter what it is. It could be a overflowing trash can at Disneyland. Oh, Chapek. Like, Chapek had anything to do with that, It's just, but anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with the Bobs. I think Iger did some good things the last couple of years, though. He really showed his true colors. And Chapek, the jury's still out overall. It's still kind of new, but he does not deserve the demonization that he gets from the fandom. I really don't believe that. And I do stand up for him quite a bit, Astray. I get a lot of heat for it in my comment section, but like, I don't think he is the villain that he's made out to be. I really don't.
Yeah. I echo many of the sentiments that OG expressed here. I know we've talked about it in some great detail, so I can only assume what he said, and I do. Look, I mean, Iger. It's so interesting when you see these CEOs like Michael Eisner and Iger and so forth. When they start out, it's like, I want to put my stamp on the company. I want to, do this. I want to do that. And they get really ambitious. And we saw that from both Michael Eisner and Bob Iger, interestingly enough. Harkening back to a conversation that you were expressing, Lorena, in terms of like how the parks were at 2018 and some things that maybe you saw you didn't like and so forth, and it's like, well, why is it this way? I remember feeling the same way back in like 2001 or the late 90s with the Disney company as it relates to Disneyland. It was just like, you get Indiana Jones Adventure in 1995 and it's like, wow, this is this big, huge, ambitious thing. This is awesome. Right. This is great. And then only 6 years later, you get Disney California Adventure 1.0. And it's like, there seems to be a delta here. There seems to be a difference in quality. What happen? How did we go from this to this? And so that's incidents like that, of course, when I started my journey in 2005, looking into all this stuff, came across a guy named Al Lutz. And Al Lutz was the guy that was like, hey, if you don't like how these things were going, if you don't like, what was going on, well, it was this guy, and he would put the faces and names behind some leading decisions. Obviously, these things are far more nuanced than just, one person, in this pivotal position and so forth. There's really a team of people that figure out some of this stuff, but the tone is definitely set by some of those people at the top, right? And so, going into that and stuff, and you just learn about, okay, so Disneyland Paris happened, and that kind of changed the calculation when it came to the parks. And Michael Eisner became a little bit more risk averse, right? He became a little bit, conservative when it came to financial spending, when it came to that sector. So it was like, okay, like I kind of get that now. And so when Bob Iger comes on the scene, it's like, oh, we just had the Save Disney campaign. We just had this kind of tumultuous period. Let's go ahead and put that behind us. And let me enact my vision on the company and right some of the wrongs left by my predecessor. Or at least that's how he felt. So it was like, okay, let's redo Disney California Adventure, right? Because we didn't get that quite right in 2001. Let's do that. And so you kind of started, it's cyclical, right? You have some downtime and you have some uptime. And when Bob Iger came onto the scene, it was definitely a fresh breath air. I'm sorry, a breath of fresh air. Sorry, mixed those two up there.
We got you.
So it was like, okay, like that's. And it's great. And look at all the investment. We got Cars Land. This is awesome. This is great.
Yep.
Unfortunately, at that same time, Walt Disney World was left a little behind, and I think that goes into kind of he definitely had some tunnel vision when it came to some things, and I think one of those was, let's invest in like Disneyland and California and all that, but not necessarily Walt Disney World.
Right.
Obviously, that changed with the opening of the Wizarding World in 2010, where it's like, okay, now we have to invest back in this resort property, but largely forgotten, and that was quite the juxtaposition between the Eisner era, even the downtimes, and the Iger era for sure. And so I think it was around that time, 2016, 2017, where I was like, okay, obviously they had bought Pixar and Marvel and Star Wars and stuff like that, and those are some great acquisitions and so and stuff, but I was definitely starting to sour on Iger a little bit even back then. Obviously, still a great figure, still doing some great stuff, but it was like, maybe it's time to hand it off. And I guess that's what he was thinking as well. Obviously, he delayed his retirement several times, right? He was originally going to retire with the opening of Shanghai Disneyland. That obviously didn't happen in 2016. And he doesn't leave until 2020 in the way that he did. I think... OG touched on this.
Yeah.
Look, Shanghai Disneyland had already closed before Bob Iger did officially hand the reins over to CEO Bob Chapek. He knew, everybody knew, a lot of people knew, especially those, let's say, at the upper rungs of society, to put it kindly, right? They knew something was coming. Something big was coming. And this was a time when Bob Iger could have been really the savior, right? He could have led the Disney company through this very tumultuous time, especially after having acquired Fox for $70 billion, right? Just a few months prior. It's like, okay, well, you just incurred this massive debt load. There's a transition happening there. This is a time when Bob Iger could help steer this ship. He bailed. And that right there, I think, opened a lot of eyes. I was like, wow, you're going to step aside right now, at a time on the precipice of, he steps aside in February. I think by March,
it was all shut down.
It was all shut down. Every single revenue generating opportunity when it came to the entertainment divisions, other than like linear TV and Disney Plus, obviously, the DTC division was shut down, completely offline. I mean, just like that, your revenue streams dry up, and it's like, whoa, this was a serious thing. This has never really happened before. I can't even to chart it in terms of the company's history. We had never seen anything like this since World War II, and even then, it wasn't that bad. So this was definitely a thing here. When he stepped aside like that, so that he wasn't in the hot seat, right? But then tried to pivot himself into this position of this kind of white knight figure, where, hey, the company they're going to do some stuff. Let me just go ahead and go in here, and I'm going to help out Chapek. We're going to help steer this ship right here. That really, that was not great. That was not great at all. And I think a lot more people started looking at him, going, were your interests the company's interests, or were your interests your own interests, right, which happened to be not only self-serving, but lead the company to success, but was it really just attempting to elevate yourself? And when those things were on a parallel track, it was all great. But when they didn't, maybe there was some conflict there. And so that has changed the game considerably. As far as Chapek goes, look, I've been critical of him. I think Galaxy's Edge and how that whole situation was handled was not great.
Ooh, no.
Right? And I have to put a little bit of that on Chapek. I mean, he's the guy making a lot of those decisions. During the production of that land. And I think the whole Galaxy's Edge thing would have worked out a little bit better had they gone forward with some of those Imagineering concepts that they had envisioned.
Oh, yeah.
Not just the concept before, but also its final implementation with the actors and so forth, and they were going to have live aliens and stuff like that. It was a much more ambitious take on a theme park land.
The Banthas? Oh, my God.
Banthas.
I'm still mad. No Banthas.
Yeah. All this stuff, and it's just like, I gotta put that on somebody. I mean, that's a Chapek-led decision. Right. I mean, look, these lands were $1 billion a piece, right? Yeah. A lot of those decisions are going to go to somebody like a Chapek, and so when I saw that he was like head of the parks now, and you've got Galaxy's Edge behind him with the famous photo of the Bobs in front, it was like, well, this is going to be really, really interesting, and it has been probably the wildest ride these last 2 years within the company's history that I can even think of. I mean, Disneyland Paris and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't even come close to this.
Well, the interesting thing too is like we've as fans, right? We're kind of accustomed to the idea of our Disney CEOs being very people. And what I mean by that, very charismatic. Ever since Michael Eisner, when Michael Eisner would come on and introduce the wonderful world of Disney. Hello, I'm Michael Eisner, head of the Walt Disney Company, right? And we're kind of accustomed to that. And then Bob Iger came in, and he wasn't the same kind of like Mickey tie Michael Eisner figure, but he was still very charismatic. He was kind of like the Disney Tony Stark. Okay, we dig that. People like him. And then Chapek comes on the scene, and Chapek just does not want, he is not a people person at all. And the interesting thing about Chapek though, is it's like, we did a show, Dre, like a few months ago, and we were talking about this. I like to think about like, what would Walt kind of think in these situations? And I'm like, well, Walt was very much like the company was like his thing. Like he even said to his employees, his artists, like, my name is on that building, not yours. Right? He's famously said that. How would Walt Disney have taken to a guy like, say, Michael Eisner, who's kind of doing like a Walt Disney shtick? And in my opinion, based on what we know about Walt, probably wouldn't take to it too kindly. Hey, this is like, I'm the guy who does that. Like, right? So would Walt have wanted a guy like that, or would he have wanted a guy like Chapek who's more behind the scenes? I don't know. Now, I don't think that Walt would necessarily be in love with the very businessy kind of bean counting stuff that Chapek is doing, but I do think in terms of the PR stuff, I think that Walt probably would have wanted just a guy to be behind the scenes managing the company and not kind of imitate him, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at. It's a fascinating dynamic, though. It really is a fascinating dynamic. Like, what does it mean to be a Disney CEO? What does it mean? Do we want a guy who's just behind the scenes kind of managing stuff, or do we want that Uncle Walt kind of thing that like Michael Eisner brought? I don't know.
It's a very interesting question, because I know for me, I'm a fan of Michael Eisner, mostly because of his commitment to Imagineering. Now, one of the things that I actually wanted to become, but I don't know about it now, was to be an Imagineer, and the dedication to Imagineer. And just, I didn't bring, when I moved, I have like all my books like packed up, but one of the books that I have, it's a coffee table book, like about that thick, with a lenticular cover that says Imagineering. And I just put my head down with that book. Of course, the Imagineering story on Disney Plus is absolutely amazing.
Yes, it is.
Love it.
It was fabulous. I'm just like, oh my God, yeah, I remember that. That's cool. That's cool. Just the whole concept of what that was. And Eisner seemed to be behind that, giving Imagineering a lot of support. And it kind of also reminded me of, kind of how Walt Disney was about every facet of storytelling. Like, there's, the visual part, there's the emotional part, and actually selling that, because selling the idea of Disney World to his brother Roy, who was the behind the scenes bean
Right.
counter, they balanced each other out very well,
They
because
did.
Walt had that vision, and Roy's like, well, how are you going to pay for it? He's like,
Right.
look, come up with something. That's your job. You're the bean counter. Help me figure out
We'll
some
figure it
kind of
out.
way, to pay for it. But it's interesting that you mentioned that about Walt, because I remember at one of the shareholder meetings, which I started dialing into, Iger was there, and one person got up and he was like, I don't own tens of thousands of shares of stock. I own like 2 shares of stock. And I drove, to come to this shareholders meeting. And he said, as a lifelong Disney fan, I'm very disappointed with how things have progressed, since Walt was CEO. Then you had Michael Eisner, and it's like you had Bob Iger, and he's just like, we really need to have less Roy Disney and more Walt Disney.
Interesting.
And I said,
That's
that was an interesting thing. And Iger kind of like soft shoot it off. And in a way that kind of offended me a little bit, because it's like, if that was Walt Disney or someone with Walt's persona, it's kind of like, I'm real flattered. Roy has his job. He helps me out to kind of, keep things balanced. But I get that. And a lot of people kind of understood that too. They wanted you to be able to kind of feel their pain a little bit. I mean, Iger kind of seemed to do that, but then just kind of moved on. And that really soured me on him. Chapek, he was like deer in the headlights. He's not the show person. He's not Tony Stark. Like, you buy a couple of these, you get one for free. Spend like 20 billion, I'll throw one of these in for free. And that's kind of like how Walt was. He was always hyping up his work, his company.
Right.
It just made you want to say, when's the next thing coming out? I can't wait for the next thing. What's the next thing that, Uncle Walt's going to come up with? And we don't really get that with Chapek. Not really his fault per se, because some people are just not people. They're just not.
It's so sad, because Chapek was just hurled into an unenviable position right off from the jump. I just described Michael Eisner and Bob Iger and how they were able to take the company in the direction that they wanted to. Chapek was never given that opportunity, really. It's always one crisis after another. Stemming back from when he took the reins in February. I mean, he had an idea of where he wanted to go, and then the whole world destroys itself, right?
Boom.
And so it's like, yeah, it's like it, he's been in this constant kind of trial by fire recovery mode, and I think some things he's handled better than others. I think other things could have been handled better, but it's just like he has never been able to kind of set forth his vision for the company in a way that Bob Iger and Michael Eisner were given that opportunity, and that's really sad because I would have liked to have seen what he would have done with it. Because it's interesting. Like Bob Iger, like, I don't know what it was about him, but he just was like, "Hey, Walt Disney World, that's the resort that you get money from, not necessarily put money into." And I always thought that was like, man, that's something. He always saw the parks as kind of like this established property, and it's like, oh, well, we should do these other things, and it's like, yeah, but it's a huge segment of your business. Whereas Chapek was a little bit, we've had conversations about this before. OG, he's a little bit more parks driven, which is unfortunate because he's had to like extract money from the parks in order to keep the company going, and that has definitely that yield management strategy and all that kind of stuff. And plus, of course, that's become very, very controversial. But because he's just front loading all this cash into all these other divisions, and it's like, we're not seeing that put back into the business in a way that we as fans would want. But in some cases, that's just kind of how it is in order to survive. Go ahead, OG. You were going to say something?
Well, yeah, and the interesting thing too, you mentioned that Bob Iger was very Disneyland driven, very Disneyland focused, and absolutely, he absolutely was. And even like with the thing with Bob Iger, he's very Hollywood. Okay, this guy is so Hollywood, right? So I think he's naturally like kind of drawn to the Disneyland resort because that's where all the Hollywood people that he's probably friends with live. And so every time Disneyland had any kind of major opening that had any kind of like star power, like George Lucas or like Tim Allen or whatever, Bob Iger was there front and center to be there on the opening. But he was never there for the Walt Disney World openings. Very, very rarely, except the NBA experience. But that had the commissioner of the NBA, Dre, for that one?
Oh, yes. The commissioner for the NBA was there for the,
forgot his name, but it doesn't really matter.
I forgot his name as well. Yeah, I'll look it up real fast. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's basically like, that was his thing. So like he was drawn to Disneyland because that's where all the Hollywood people are. That's why every opening there was a Hollywood thing, and he was there to be front and center. Disney World, he didn't even care about it until the commissioner of the NBA was there to open up the NBA experience. Then he decided, okay, I'll show up to a Walt Disney World thing, and it was like this restaurant in Disney Springs. It like didn't even really matter. It's just
Adam Silver, I think.
Yeah,
Adam Silver.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. But that Hollywood element with Iger is, I think, why he was so focused on Disneyland. He can smooth, do his Hollywood thing.
Yep.
That was him. And to Chapek's credit, Chapek, I feel like he's a little bit more of, like, we've seen Chapek in the parks on not big days. Like, he's a little bit more in the parks for, like, no reason. Or at least he was when he was the parks guy, much more than Bob Iger was. Bob Iger was only there if, like, Susan Sarandon was there too or something, right? Or like Brie Larson, it wouldn't ever be just because.
Jay Rasulo, I remember he was the head of the Parks Division at a certain point. He was rarely in there, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Bob Chapek, I mean, he was in there, and as CEO, he has been in there far more often, to OG's point here, than
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I will add, when Harmonious opening night, I was actually streaming that. Bob Chapek was there.
Ooh. Interesting.
See, that's something Iger wouldn't do.
No, right? I just found that very interesting because there's the friendship boat. There's like the dock that's there, and I'm like, why is that roped off, and why are there all these people there? This is not normal,
right?
Unless maybe it's a couple of bad Imagineers want to keep tabs on stuff whatsoever. And then we kept hearing murmurings and they're like, yeah, that's Bob Chapek. I'm like, really interesting.
Well, and Lorena, like, Dre, you actually brought this up to me, so I got to give credit to you for this. But
sure.
whenever you hear Bob Chapek talk about Disney, there was recently a lot of like hubbub with the politics, right? Because the Florida bill and all that, right? And whenever Chapek was interviewed about that and about like inclusivity and all that stuff, he would always use the parks as his like point of reference, right? Like he would say, when you walk into Disneyland or when you walk into the Magic Kingdom, you leave your politics at the gate and yada, yada, yada. And we're all just like, you know, here for the magic or whatever he said. But it was always from that park perspective.
Yeah.
I really do believe that Chapek, while he's not the best manager necessarily of the parks or even the company, I do believe that he out of everything Disney does, I think that's more his thing. He references it a lot. The Hollywood stuff, he's the total opposite. He does not like that at all. He's completely opposite from Bob
yeah,
Iger.
that's made him. We've talked a couple of times on this channel, especially with Kamran Pasha, about how many times that you know, Chapek's bumping heads with people in Hollywood because he's not a Hollywood guy.
Not at all.
And he's not the comply with the Hollywood game type of thing. So that's another facet of the Hollywood press really likes to drag Chapek through the mud when they get a chance. And they've never done that with Iger.
Never. Well, think about the juxtaposition here, right? Iger was the guy that you would see at the Oscars, right? Sitting in that kind of ABC. What is it? It used to be the Kodak Theater, but I don't know what it is now. But you know what I'm talking about, right? He was sitting right there, front and center, the Hollywood glitz and glam. You would never see Chapek there. Instead, Chapek is the guy. Yeah, he was a consumer products guy for a lot of years. And as a consumer products guy, well, he would have to sell a lot of the concepts that were coming out of the studio, whether it be physical media, whether it be in some ways distribution marketing, but a lot of times consumer products, toys and so forth that were made off the back of these franchises. So he, you know, his job was contingent on, hey, if the studio puts out something great, go ahead and sell it to the best you can. If they don't put out something great, well, now you have a lot of product that you have to turn around and sell in whatever way. So he's been beholden to this kind of Hollywood studio kind of influence in the company, right? He's been beholden to that. He's been he's you know, kind of been on the back end of that, whereas now he is in the driver's seat, and so that kind of conflict right there has well, we've seen that pop up in some interesting ways, haven't we?
Yeah. Scarlett Johansson. Anyway.
That's what I'm talking about. And many other instances like that.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I want to kind of bring I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you folks have an epileptic fit. Sometimes StreamYard decides it really wants to mess with me. But first of all, if you have not subscribed to Orange Girl 55, what are you waiting for? Okay. These guys have great videos. It's just so refreshing to just listen to you guys talk and just nerd out along with you guys. So I've got their YouTube link in the description box, also a link to their respective Twitters should you like to follow them on Twitter. So gentlemen, can you let us know maybe what you have going on with your channel that you'd like our audience here to know about?
Well, we do a lot of nerdy content, Disney theme park nerdy content on the channel, and it's very much like this, where we do this very conversational discussion, debate of all things going on. Now, we do focus mostly on theme parks, but we dip our toe, as you can see here. We even talked about Elon Musk buying Twitter. We we take Q&A. We talk
park tweets. I gotta watch that one.
Yes, that was a hot one. That was a hot one. But we have a lot of fun, and we just nerd out talking about this thing that we all love, which is theme parks and Disney, and we dip into Universal and everything. And so yeah, we'd be honored if you're interested, check us out. maybe subscribe, and we would love to have you.
Yes, please definitely do subscribe.
And that goes the same for you yourself, Lorena. Whenever you want to pop on the channel, just let us know. We'll definitely have you on and talk all kinds of stuff for sure.
Well, I will definitely love to. I'd be honored. Thank you so very much. So looking forward to it. Folks, please do subscribe to Orange Grow 55. Definitely do that. And any last thoughts as we wrap up here?
I just want to say real quick, Lorena, we had a blast today, and thank you so much for allowing us to come on and just talk about theme parks. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
I concur. Similar sentiments. Thank you so much for having us on and allowing us to talk a little shop. Again, when it comes to the channel and these kind of subsequent things, right? Or the interconnected things, let's say. I always tell OG, it's like, hey, let's just have a conversation like we're talking shop like we do in our regular normal lives, and kind of bring that for the audience. And so I'm always attracted to those type of content creators. Obviously, with your shows, Lorena, it is fantastic. And so thank you for letting us come on and talk some shop like we would, if we were in that kind of let's say Trader Sam's bar setting, if you will.
Yeah.
Which I still have not had a chance to.
Lorena, you have to. You have to.
I know.
Get over to the Polynesian. What are you doing?
I'm like running through there because I'm like, oh my God, I got to get home. No. But I'm definitely planning to do so in January. It's one of those things where I am taking time to actually so this is what people do when they get up in the morning and they just get to go straight to the theme park and they don't have to go to work that day. Must be kind of great. I'm going to experience it. But you two gentlemen are definitely welcome anytime on my channel, especially for my Theme Park Geeks and Divas show. I mean, you guys have great perspectives, kind of like drop in when you can. I know folks from my audience would love to hear from you guys. It's a great time. We just nerd out talk shop.
Hey, send us a link, man. We'll be on there. We'll pop in
definitely
occasionally. I can assure you that.
Absolutely. Great. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here. I especially want to thank again my guests, Dre and Orange Girl 55, for being here on my channel. Again, please do subscribe to their channel. Follow them on Twitter. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you again next time. Bye.